By the way, America has a baby problem. Specifically, young adults aren't making enough of them. Yeah, so let's get to it, people. Of course, that's easy for us to say. Babies, though, are really expensive, and focusing on your career is important. People have different priorities, but still, experts say America's birth rate is a critical issue. Not everybody wants to have kids. But the New York Times even did an article about it last week, highlighting pitches that allegedly are being made to the Trump administration about ways to encourage women to have children. Ideas include payments to cover the cost of giving birth, classes on fertility, even scholarships for married couples having kids. If it keeps getting worse, America might be headed in the direction of Japan. On Sunday's 60 Minutes, John Wertheim showed how Japanese businesses are now catering to the massive single population, including karaoke for one, stag-only bars, and solo weddings.
What's that?
Remember that episode of Sex and the City? Basically, Carrie threw a wedding for herself, or she had a wedding party. Yeah. Anyway, it was so bad that the Japanese government had to step in.
To foster human relationships, the Tokyo government has taken action. Yuriko Koike is the city's governor.
We are promoting for matchmaking by artificial intelligence.
Tokyo government is playing omie, playing matchmaker.
That's right.
Yes, the Japanese capital city has launched its own dating app.
So why are we suddenly so preoccupied with having babies, as if our parents aren't putting enough pressure on us?
That's right.
My grandmother, in my case. She's like, the bus is going to leave you.
That's
the
right.
bus is leaving
You
you.
get another one.
If you want 3. All right, here to help us better understand what's going on is an economics professor at the University of Maryland and author of The Two-Parent Privilege, How Americans Stopped Getting Married and Started Falling Behind, Melissa Kearney. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So what is the big deal? Because I know some people feel like not having children is helping with the global population problem. Should Americans be having more kids?
I'm certainly not here to say that anybody who doesn't want to have kids should have kids. So let's start with that. But on an aggregate level, the decline in birth rates in the U.S. does pose challenges for us as an economy, as a society. And so I think it's a good thing that attention is finally being paid to this issue. And I think the conversation we should be having is, are there things that we could be doing as a society to make parenthood feel more accessible to people who would want to have children if they weren't forced to sort of bear the responsibilities essentially on their own, meaning that in the U.S., we don't really share in the responsibilities of raising children. We have very little by way of support, income support, childcare support, housing support to parents. If we were a more pro-family society, would people be making different decisions such that they themselves would be happier, and we'd get the benefit of a growing population and more young people around? So I think that's a good conversation to be having.
You hit the nail on the head. The United States, compared to other countries, compared to other developed countries, does not offer a support network to encourage people to have children. Certainly, in my case, we have one, and all the things that you cited are reasons why we still haven't decided if we're having another. So
the bus is leaving you, Vlad. The bus is leaving.
Okay, Tati Adriana. So here's a question, though. So if we know that this is happening, what are the dangers to a shrinking population?
There's a few that economists really worry about. The first, the most immediate, probably the least interesting to most people, but it is a very real one, is that all of our social insurance systems like Social Security, disability insurance, Medicare, those were all designed for a society in which there were many more workers than old people. And that ratio of workers to beneficiaries has been declining steadily. The decline in birth rates, the aging of the population, makes the fiscal pressures all the more great and immediate. So everything you hear about Social Security being fiscally unsustainable, Medicare being fiscally unsustainable, given the current demographics, that situation is even worse than we hear and the official reports suggest. Secondly, there's a real worry based on a lot of empirical evidence that an older workforce, fewer young people, fewer young firms, means a less dynamic, innovative economy. And so that's a real worry, is that just our economic dynamism is facing demographic headwinds. Why does that matter to ordinary Americans? Because it means that there will be fewer technological breakthroughs, fewer medical advancements. A less dynamic economy is one in which living standards don't continue to advance and improve at the rate we're used to. A third thing I would say is that in local areas, think about towns in New England or in California where birth rates are particularly low, you're going to see towns sort of empty out, schools close. That 60-minute segment was pretty dystopian. The kid, riding amid puppets. There are going to be some towns in the U.S. that look like that. And so those are real worries.
Melissa, I also think of some of the benefits, like the environmental, perhaps, impact of a smaller population. But I want to talk about those pitches the government is reportedly could be getting to try to boost childbirth here in the U.S. Is it enough to offer financial incentives, like covering the cost of having a child or the others that we mentioned?
It's not enough, but it's a start, and we should absolutely be doing this. So the $5,000 baby bonus that was just suggested by the Trump administration is a great idea. Now, if you're worried that $5,000 is going to entice a bunch of people who can't afford or shouldn't have kids to have kids, you don't have to worry, because all the evidence suggests this is not going to meaningfully turn around birth rates. If you're hoping that a $5,000 baby bonus will meaningfully turn around birth rates, you're going to be disappointed. But this is the kind of thing that we should be doing to build a pro-family agenda. It's not going to be enough, but it's a start, and we should add to that much more expansive childcare support, public provision of high-quality childcare, support to young adults who want to buy homes and houses. We should do all of these things. Another thing we really need to be thinking about is how our workplaces and sort of society is set up. Women now work in large numbers. And so making work and having kids compatible is probably going to do a lot more than any sort of, baby bonus or tax credit. That requires a lot more sort of social institutional changes.
Melissa, we'll need to have you back on to talk about how we can do that work and be parents.
$5,000 sounds great, but paid parental leave, federally mandated paid parental leave, making higher education more affordable. Those are the things that will encourage us.
Fascinating, yes.
Melissa, thank you very much. Great to have you. Appreciate it.